Thanks so much. Great to be here at Rio Pinar Golf and Country Club. We're excited to be here. I want to thank Rio Pinar Golf and Country Club for hosting us. And we're also very pleased to be joined by Florida Surgeon General Joe Ladapo. We have our DJJ Secretary and Special Olympics Board Member Florida, Dr. Eric Hall, is with us. We have Representatives Trunow, Smith, and Hawkins from the Florida House of Representatives with us. And then we have Elaine Valley and her daughter and Special Olympics athlete Isabella. And we also have Frank Veronica, another Special Olympics athlete with us here. So the 2022 USA Games for Special Olympics International are scheduled to begin this weekend in Orlando. It's something that we've worked with Special Olympics Florida and my administration really over the last couple of years, looking forward to what we hope would be a really good event. My wife Casey's been involved, and we really feel strongly that having opportunities for these Special Olympians is very important for our state, and we want all the We want everybody in the state to be able to have opportunities to make the most of their God-given abilities, and then to be able to compete in athletics. And obviously that takes a variety of different forms, but when you have folks that have disabilities, to give them an opportunity to compete is really meaningful. And I can tell you the heart and the determination you see from our Special Olympians is remarkable. And they're able to do things that, quite frankly, I don't think that I would be able to do under those circumstances. And so they really should be admired and commended. And so this is something that I think is really meaningful for people throughout the state of Florida. Now, we also, over the last couple of years as a state, have taken some very strong stands, namely with respect to some of these COVID policies. And our view has been that your rights or your freedoms should not be circumscribed by your decision to take or not take a COVID vaccine. And so that took really a couple different iterations in terms of actions that we took. I mean, one of the things we did very early on was ban vaccine passports in the state of Florida. And so you're able to participate in society without having this mandate imposed upon you, and that was not the norm in many places in this country, and it's still not the norm in other countries. I don't think you're even allowed to enter Canada unless you show proof of this mRNA vaccine. And so that was inappropriate because at the end of the day, our view was there needs to be choice in this regard. It's also just the case that scientifically, many people by 2021 had already had COVID and recovered. And we believe in evidence-based analysis, and we believe that immunity through prior infection is real, just like it's been for every other respiratory virus. And now you finally, CDC will at least tacitly acknowledge that, but they were denying that for a long time. That was anti-scientific, and it really exploded any type of rationale to do really a remarkable infringement on people's freedom. So we were never supportive of doing that. You should be able to go to a movie theater, you should be able to go to a restaurant, you should be able to do what you want to do without having to produce medical papers, and certainly without being excluded from participating in society. And there were some that didn't want people who didn't bow down to this the altar of these vaccines that they didn't want them. They wanted them to be marginalized. They wanted them to have less rights. They wanted them to even potentially be denied education and opportunities. And that was never going to fly in the state of Florida. And so we're happy to have taken a very strong stand there. And people said at the time, well, why can't a business force someone to do a vaccine or something, passport to go? And I said, you know what? First of all, I think I want people's freedoms to be respected to participate, which is more important to me than what some business does. But if one business did passports in Florida, people would say Florida had passports. And we would not have had record-breaking tourism in 2021. I can tell you that. So it's been the right thing to do. We also, when you had the prospect of both federal mandates as well as a lot of corporate mandates, including some major companies here in Central Florida, they were going to fire employees who did not get COVID vaccines. We even saw that in some of the municipalities, such as the fire department of Orange County. And so these were fights where the state of Florida was squarely on the side of the individuals and their right to work, regardless of the choice they made with the COVID vax. And so some of that was just done in accordance with what we did with the passports, but then we did come in a special session of the legislature just as people were right on the precipice of losing jobs, and we passed protections for every Floridian, not just against Biden's mandates, but even against corporate mandates. And so we were able to save thousands and thousands of jobs throughout the state of Florida by doing that. And it was, I think, really problematic, especially when you had a lot of the people who were kind of frontline folks, first responders, nurses, potentially getting fired after they were the ones doing all this hard work all the way through COVID. Now you're going to fire them because of this? Give me a break. And so we were right to do that, and that was the right decision. So fast forward to this summer this June with the Special Olympics, and they imposed on the athletes a COVID vax mandate. And so if you were not allowed to, if you did not submit and you did not get the COVID vax, you would be denied the ability to compete in the Special Olympics. And what connection that has to competing, I don't understand. I mean, some of the stuff is, we've never seen something wielded like this vaccine to try to marginalize disfavored people, to try to deny people full freedom and full rights, and to go after Special Olympians who all they wanted to do is compete was not consistent with Florida law, and it's not the right thing to do. Let them compete. We want everybody to be able to compete. And so what has ended up happening is you've had some of these athletes from outside of Florida who have not wanted to do this and basically had assumed that they were not going to be able to participate. You had others who didn't want to do it but wanted to compete so badly that even against their judgment ended up doing the vaccine. So for example, there was a family from Kansas. They went to 6 different doctors to plead for a medical exemption for their son that had Down syndrome. Wanted the exemption from the vax, wanted to be able to compete. They were told to just get the first dose, and if he experiences any side effects, then the medical exemption will then be offered. Well, the son with Down syndrome did do that under pressure, had a seizure, was rushed to the hospital after his first dose, and so then he was granted the exemption after having to go through that, which was so unnecessary, and it was just something that was totally ridiculous. And so you're seeing that over and over where these people are going to have to make these decisions, and it's not necessarily, some of it's just personal choice, which is fine by me, but some of it you actually have advised against doing this. And a lot of these Special Olympians have also had COVID by now, because I mean most people have had it by now. And so to impose that mandate now in June of 2022 didn't make sense. Nevertheless, that was the posture we were in. I told Surgeon General Latipo, I said, look, Florida law requires them to be able to compete. So work together with the Special Olympics International. Let's see. And look, the people here in Florida agreed. They wanted them to be able to compete. This is really something from outside our state with the mandate being imposed. And so finally, we can report that all the athletes will be allowed to compete regardless of the vaccine. So this will be a relief to a lot of the athletes, although I think we do have to acknowledge, because it's coming so late, some athletes are not going to necessarily be able to make the arrangements to be able to come and participate. And so while there is not a mandate in place as of now, the fact of the matter is there may be some who logistically are not able to compete. Now, we hope that the Florida athletes are all in. There's a significant number of them who are in limbo up until this week, and it's our view that we're going to get almost all of them going to be able to do. I know they're working on accommodations to making sure everybody's okay, but this is a really significant event for these athletes. And in Florida, we want all of them to be able to compete. We do not think it's fair or just to be marginalizing some of these athletes based on a decision that has no bearing on their ability to compete with honor and integrity. And so this was important that we engaged in this. I wish it did not have to come to this. I wish this had been resolved earlier, but I do think that this is something that's very, very important. That, especially, like I said, we applied this society-wide in Florida. We don't think anybody should be targeted on this basis for sure. But to do it to these Special Olympians, to me, was just totally wrong. So we're going forward. We think it's going to be a fun event. We think that there's going to be a lot of great competition, and we're really excited that these athletes who were in limbo for many, many weeks and months now have the peace of mind to know that they're going to be able to compete. And so we do believe that this is going to be really, really significant. So I'm going to let Joe Latipo come up, talk a little bit about this issue, and then we're going to hear from some of our Special Olympians. Part of the reason we're here is because you have golf connection to practicing right here. And so these are good stories that I know a lot of people will really be interested in. Okay, the Surgeon General of Florida.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks. Well, I really wish we didn't have to be here. One of the people in my department likes to say that this is I think she says this is the 6th inning of COVID. We shouldn't be having these conversations at this point from what we know about the pandemic. Scientifically, it makes 0 sense. How can you force people to take a vaccine in order to stop transmission when that vaccine is not effective at stopping transmission? You don't have to go to medical school to know that doesn't make sense, right? And that's what Special Olympics International was asking people to do. They weren't asking people even to have a booster or anything like that. And the scientific studies show that at this point, at this far out, there's basically 0 protection from infection from the vaccines. So scientifically, it doesn't make sense, and it didn't make sense. Ethically, it doesn't make sense. It's on the wrong side ethically. The governor's described some of those reasons. I'll add a little bit more to it. We don't like to talk, frankly, about safety because it's taboo. but safety is an honest conversation that needs to happen, okay? Many people, I'm sure people in this room, know individuals who have experienced adverse effects after these vaccines, unlike any other vaccines, right? And some people will say, oh, you know, millions of people have taken these vaccines, they must be safe. Well, you can't know the answer to that when it is taboo to talk about having reactions after vaccines. And there's another reason why we know that there almost certainly is something different happening after these vaccines. Because there's another vaccine that over